Hello everyone. أهلا بيكم في تعلم الإنجليزية. Learn English. A new episode, and still we're talking about the world around us. So we're looking at the bigger world around us now. And today we're going to speak about eating out, or we're going to speak about restaurants. So as we said, لسه بندور ولسه بنتفرج على العالم اللي حوالينا. And we're still trying to speak about the other world, the outer world. لسه بنحاول نتكلم على العالم الخارجي والحاجات اللي حواليا في العالم الكبير بتاعي. So today we're going to speak about المطاعم ولما بخرج عشان أتغدى في مطعم أو آكل بره. So today we're going to look at restaurants in general. So let's look in detail what we're going to learn today. So today we're going to learn vocabulary. And for vocabulary, you're going to learn food, and we're going to learn taste and types of restaurants. هنعمل revision سريع على الفود اللي احنا كنا واخدينه قبل كده. And we're going to look at taste, الطعم بتاع الحاجات, and we're going to look at the types of different restaurants. دي الحاجات اللي احنا هنتعلمها when it comes to vocab. And we're going to also learn grammar. And for grammar, we're going to look at the general idea of making a request or an offer. So we're going to look at requests and offers in general. And we're going also to do skills, and you're going to read and listen to a conversation between a waiter and a customer in a restaurant. تعالوا نبص مع بعض على أول part معانا, which is idioms. And let's look at our idioms of the day. للناس اللي مش فاكرة يعني إيه idioms, idioms are expressions that are used to sound more natural and more fluent. So idioms هي تعبيرات مش مرتبطة بالمعنى الحرفي لكلماتها. So the expression has a different meaning from the words. الexpression معناه مختلف عن الكلمات. So we use it to sound natural عشان نبقى بنتكلم بشكل طبيعي ما نبقاش بنساوند زي اللي خارجين من كتاب بالظبط. So that's why idioms help us to sound more like natural people. بنساوند طبيعيين وبنتكلم زي ما الناس بتتكلم في حياتها العادية. So that's why we're going to look at idioms related to food and restaurants today. So النهارده الidioms بتاعتنا هتبقى مرتبطة بالفود وبالrestaurants. So let's look at the first idiom that we have for today. So the first idiom that we have is called cheap as chips. So cheap as chips. When we say cheap as chips, it means something that is very, very cheap. So I can go and say, last month I bought a blouse, it was cheap as chips, which means it was very cheap. So we can use cheap as chips whenever we want to describe something that did not cost a lot of money. So I can say, my friend bought a new Xbox, it was as cheap as chips. It was a very good deal. So it was very cheap and it was a very good deal. Or, I wish to find a car that is as cheap as chips. نفسي ألاقي عربية تبقى رخيصة جدا. So, I wish to find a car that is as cheap as chips. Or, I'm going to buy this, or I'm going to buy these shoes. They are as cheap as chips. هم رخاص جدا. So, this is the first idiom that is connected to food. So, we're using the word chips. And in here, it's used to describe something that is cheap or not expensive. Let's look at our second idiom. The second idiom that we have is not my cup of tea. Not my cup of tea. So when we say for something that is not my cup of tea, it's not my favorite. So if something I don't like or something that I don't enjoy much, I say it's not my cup of tea. So for example, I can speak about math. I'm not very good at math. I don't like it. So I can say math is not my cup of tea, which means I don't enjoy or math is not my favorite. Or I can say, okay, I don't know much about television and films. They are not my cup of tea, which is they are not my favorite. It's always used in the negative form. لما بنتكلم على cup of tea in general, it's used as negative. دايما بنستخدمها في negative form كحاجة مش مفضلة بالنسبة لي. And we don't usually say this is my cup of tea. يعني احنا مش بنستخدمها في affirmative form ان ده ال cup of tea بتاعي, so this is my favorite. So it's not both. It's my cup of tea or it's not my cup of tea. لأ. احنا دايما بنستخدمه في negative form بس as not my cup of tea and it's not my favorite. So anything that you don't like or anything that you don't enjoy, you can say it's not my cup of tea. For example, I don't like the black color, so black is not my cup of tea. And this is the second idiom that we have today. Let's look at the next idiom. The next idiom we have is a finger in every pie. A finger in every pie is used when we want to speak about something or someone who does a lot of things at the same time. So, imagine the conversation between me and my mother. She's telling me, okay, can you come with me tomorrow? We're going to visit your aunt. And I tell her, Mom, I have to do my work, and I have a meeting, and I have to do a presentation. So, I have a finger in every pie, which means I am very busy doing a lot of things. Or, think about it when your mom tells you, you have exams approaching, or exams are coming soon, so we're going to get your mobile and we're going to put it in your closet. You're not going to use it. Because you can't have a finger in every pie, you just need to concentrate on studying. So we can't have a finger in every pie, we can't do a lot of things at the same time. Or you can say, I like to focus on one thing. It's not a very good idea to have a finger in every pie. So the idea of a finger in every pie means doing too many things or doing a lot of things at the same time. So by this, we have talked about idioms that are connected to food and that are connected to restaurants as well. So the first food item that we talked about here is pie. And for pie, we use the idiom of finger or have a finger in every pie, which means doing a lot of things at the same time. And the second one, it was cup of tea. And we use it to say something is not my cup of tea, which is something that I do not prefer. And the third food thing or the third thing that is connected to food is chips. And we used it to speak about something that is very cheap and we said as cheap as chips. بكده نبقى اتكلمنا على الإيديومز بتاعتنا المرتبطة بالفود ومرتبطة بالريستورانتس. تعالوا نبص على أول ايتم في الفوكابيلاري بتاعنا واللي هو التايبس اوف ريستورانتس. يلا نشوف الريستورانتس مع بعض. As we said, today we're talking about eating out. So the first thing that you think of when you decide to eat out is what type of restaurant can we go to? أول حاجة بنفكر فيها لما بنفكر نخرج أو ناكل بره, the idea is what type of restaurant? إيه نوع الريستورانت اللي إحنا هنروح؟ So we have lots of types of restaurants. التايبس of restaurants مقسومة يا إما بنوع الأكل اللي بيقدموه يا إما related or depending on the ethnic food that they offer. بمعنى هو يا إما مرتبط بنوع الأكل نفسه يا إما بالناشوناليتي بتاعت الأكل أو بجنسية الأكل. So we will look at different types and we can think, is it connected to the nationality or the origin of the food, or is it connected to the type of food itself? ولا هو مرتبط بالtype of food itself? So when we look at restaurant types and restaurant styles, so here we have the first restaurant style or the first restaurant type. The first restaurant type is called fast food. So fast food restaurant basically is a restaurant that doesn't have a waiter or a waitress. الفاست فود restaurant ما بيبقاش موجود فيه لا waiter ولا waitress. مبقاش فيه حد بيجي لغاية التيبل عندي ياخد مني الأوردر. الفاست فود restaurant أنا اللي بروح على الكاونتر and I place my order myself. And I pick my order, go back to my table. يعني في الريستورانت بتاعت الفاست فود restaurants أنا اللي بجيب الأوردر بتاعي وأنا اللي باخد الأوردر بتاعي وبقعد على التيبل. And the most important thing about fast food restaurants is that food is served really quickly. So you don't wait for food for a long time. الفاست food restaurants من اسمها هي fast. So fast is the idea of fast service. السيرفيس بتبقى سريعة. So I order in less than 5 minutes, I take my order and go. So these are called fast food restaurants. Regardless the type of food that you can eat inside. بغض النظر عن نوع الفود that we can eat inside. So we can speak about beans and falafel and it can be fast food. لما ممكن نروح order food وطعمية on the spot, you take your sandwich and go. This is called a fast food restaurant. And it's the same idea if I go to a burger restaurant, for example. So it's not, the idea of fast food restaurant is not connected to what you can eat inside. It's connected to how fast the delivery is or how fast the service is. So it depends on the speed of service and the idea of serving yourself. I serve myself, I get my food, and I find my table. Nobody helps me inside. So it's called fast food restaurant. And we also have a takeaway, and sometimes we call it a ghost restaurant. Both are the same. So the takeaway or the ghost restaurant is a place where you don't have a restaurant where you don't have a place to sit. It's just you order and go. So restaurants اللي ما فيهاش مكان يتقعد فيه أو يتاكل فيه. So we have fast food restaurant. I order and I can sit inside the place and eat inside. يعني الفاست فود ريستورانت أنا اللي بعمل الأوردر وأنا اللي باخد أكلي بس I sit inside the place and I eat inside the place. But the takeaway, no. I order the food and I take it with me. I can eat it home or I can eat it outside. It doesn't really matter. But what really matters is they don't have a place for you to sit. So it's called a ghost restaurant or a takeaway. And we also have vegetarian restaurant. Vegetarian. So a vegetarian restaurant is a restaurant where you only have food that is suitable for people who never eat meat. الفيجيتيريان ريستورانتس بدأت تبقى common وبدأت تبقى منتشرة في العالم كله لأن بقى في ناس كتير ما بتاكلش اللحوم خالص. These people are called vegetarians. والvegetarians دول they depend on vegetables and fruit when it comes to their diets. بيعتمدوا على الفيجيتابلز والفروت لما بييجوا ياكلوا. So they started opening restaurants that don't have meat. So there is no meat at all in a vegetarian restaurant. And we have the first ethnic restaurant. Ethnic معناها عرقي. So it depends on the origin of the food. So we have Chinese restaurant. And a Chinese restaurant, you only find food that comes from China. So we call it Chinese food or Chinese restaurant. So the Chinese restaurant مش هنلاقي أي نوع من أنواع الأكل. The main thing إن إحنا بنلاقي decoration and everything inside the restaurant that is related to the place, related للnationality أو الأوريجين اللي جاي منها الأكل. So for a Chinese food هنلاقي كل الdecoration related للChinese and the food is connected to Chinese and even the menu itself المنيو نفسه بيبقى مكتوب أسامي الأكل فيه الأسامي الصينية للأكل. So that's why it's a bit difficult to choose in a Chinese food لو الدescription مش مكتوب. So based on this, we can think of all types of food or of restaurants that are based on the origin. يعني أنا عندي مثلا Egyptian restaurant, Egyptian food restaurant, where you can find our Egyptian culture food. And we also have a seafood restaurant. Seafood restaurant is the restaurant where you can eat anything related to seafood. So you can eat fish, you can eat shrimps, you can eat things related to seafood. And it's called a seafood restaurant. And we also have a fine dining. A fine dining. A fine dining is a type of restaurant which is very, very expensive. And it's usually fancy restaurant with amazing decoration. الفاين دايننج بيديبند على decoration بيبقى شكلها fancy ومبهر جدا and they have very expensive food and it's not suitable for everyday lunch or everyday dinner. ما هواش مناسب أو this type of restaurant مش مناسب للأيام العادية. So it is suitable for special events or special occasions. بيبقى دايما مناسب للspecial events لو عندي event مهم. Because you need to get dressed in very nice clothes. لازم الناس لما بتروح fine dining they have to wear nice clothes. For example, for men they have to wear a suit. For women it's usually a dress. الفاين dining دايما بيحكم dress code معين. بيتطلب من الناس ان هي تبقى لابسه formal وبيتطلب من الناس ان الجنتلمان يبقوا لابسين بدل والليديز يبقوا لابسين dresses. So that's why it's not something very common to eat there every day. مش من الطبيعي ان الناس بتاكل هناك على طول. And again, it's very, very expensive. So it's called fine dining. And we also have a gourmet. A gourmet. Gourmet is taken from the word gourmet, which is French. هي الأوريجين بتاعت الكلمة دي أصلاً French. So gourmet is a type of restaurant that presents very unique food when it comes to the taste. الفود اللي بيطبخ بشكل حلو قوي بس الناس مش بتهتم بالكمية. So the quantity or the portion is not important, but they have you taste the best food ever. دايما الجورميه بيبقى البورشنز بتاعته أو كمية الفود قليلة جدا, but they give you amazing taste so you always remember it. So it's called a gourmet. And we have food trucks. Food trucks أو food stalls اللي هي عربيات الأكل in general. The main thing about food trucks and food stalls is that they don't have a big variety of options. Either they have sandwiches only or maybe ice cream only. So it's usually one type of food. And the special thing about it that the food is not very expensive. The prices بتاعت الفود in the food trucks are reasonable. Some of the food trucks can have chairs and tables and you can sit in the street and eat, and some of them don't. And we have, again, another type of restaurant that depends on the nationality, which is Italian food. So the Italian food restaurant is the restaurant that has the food that comes from the Italian origin. Like when we speak about pizza, when we speak about pasta. So these things, you can eat them in an Italian food restaurant. And we also have a buffet. A buffet. The buffet restaurant is a restaurant that does not have a menu. ده واحد من الرestaurant اللي ما بيبقاش عندهم menu. So what happens is that you go and you have a big variety of food and you can select whatever you want with the portion that you want. انت بتختار انت عايز تاكل ايه بالportions اللي انت عايزها وبالكميات اللي انت عايزها. But the main thing is that مفيش specific menu, ما بتبقاش عارف وانت رايح انت ممكن تاكل ايه. So it's usually a surprise that the chef is preparing for you. دايما بيبقى مفاجأة بالنسبة لي الشيف عامل ايه النهارده في البوفيه بتاعه. So the type of buffet is not something easy to choose because you don't know whether what you will find is something you like or something that you don't like. But the good thing about it is that buffet restaurants are not very expensive. The prices are reasonable. And we also have a steakhouse. A steakhouse. So sometimes we call it steakhouse and sometimes we call it an international restaurant. So these restaurants are usually serving meat and they serve pasta or any side dish, and they are very good for casual meetings or casual dinners. So it's called a steakhouse. And we also have Indian restaurants or Indian food restaurants. Again, another food that is based on nationality. So if you like Indian food, which is very spicy, so you can go to an Indian food restaurant. And we have a family restaurant. A family restaurant. So the family restaurant is unique for having a playing area for kids that is included. الفاميلي ريستورانت دايما بيبقى فيه play area أو فيه مكان يبقى مخصص للأطفال إن هم يقدروا يلعبوا. That's why it's called a family restaurant. And we also have a sushi restaurant or a sushi bar, either or. And the only thing that you can find there is sushi, which is the Japanese food. So this is another type of ethnic restaurant or a restaurant that is based on nationality. And we have a cafe or a bistro. Cafe or bistro is a place where you usually go, and the basic thing there is not eating, it's for a drink or a dessert. لما بنروح الكافيه احنا مش بنبقى الهدف ان احنا هنقعد نتغدى. It's usually drink. We can have coffee or maybe tea or soda, and we can have a dessert, حاجة حلوة. So it's not suitable for lunches. It's suitable for breakfast maybe or a meeting with people. So it's called cafe or bistro. بكده نكون بصينا على أهم أنواع الرestaurants that we can choose from when I decide to eat out with my family or my friends. تعالوا نعمل practice على كده وتعالوا نشوف بقية الأنواع الموجودة. We talked about the most important types of restaurants and what is special about each and every one. Let's now do some practice for that and let's see if you can guess the type of restaurant from the picture or not. So here we have the first restaurant. Let's look at the picture that we have. So in this picture, we have fancy decoration and we have nice food. So what kind of restaurant do you think it is? Let me give you a clue. The food is very expensive. And you must wear nice clothes. The restaurant is quite and very fancy. And the staff is very polite. So we're talking about a very elegant type of restaurant. Do you remember which one was that elegant? Yes, exactly. So here we're talking about a fine dining. A fine dining. Okay, so these are the features that we talked about when we speak about fine dining. So for fine dining, we have very expensive restaurant. People must wear nice clothes, like formal clothes. It's quite and fancy, and the staff is very polite. Let's look at the next one. Okay, take a look at the picture here and tell me what kind of restaurant do you think it is? So we have busy restaurant and the decoration is not very fancy. So do you think this is a fine dining? It doesn't work like this. So let's see the features, and based on the features we can think what kind. So not too expensive. This is the first thing, or the first feature. The food here is not too expensive. And we have moderately priced. So the price is مش too expensive, it's moderate, متوسطة. الأسعار متوسطة. So it's quite and relaxed. It's a place where you can go and sit relaxed. So it's not something that you have to be very formal in. And the staff are nice. They are polite, but they are relaxed staff. So they are not very formal as well. مش زي fine dining. So what kind of restaurant this is? ده ممكن يبقى كذا option. So it can be a casual dining. It can be, yes, it can be a steakhouse. So all these options or both options can work. I would put it as a casual dining. So the casual dining is the opposite of the fine dining. Okay, so look at the picture here. We have a lady, and the lady is placing her order, and most probably she will take her order and go. Or she will take her tray and sit down. So let's see the features. We have super quick service. Food is served in paper or plastic containers. الأكل بيتقدم يا إما في ورق يا إما في plastic. So you don't have tableware, and you don't have china, you don't have fancy restaurant ware. And most of the time there is no waiter. You take the food yourself. Most of the time ما بيبقاش عندهم waiter وأنا اللي باخد الأكل بنفسي. So what type of restaurant is that? Exactly. So if we're talking about super quick service, if it's quick, and if we're talking about things that doesn't take much time, it is a fast food restaurant. So for a fast food restaurant, as we said, ما بيبقاش عندهم tableware. It's usually paper cups, and we're talking about no plates or anything, usually things that are plastic. So you finish your food and you can throw it away. So it's called a fast food restaurant. And the next one is this one. Let's take a look. So look at the decoration, look at the place. What do you think it is? So here we have the features. Usually cheap, very casual and relaxed, usually serves coffee, tea, breads and breakfast food. Many people come here to work or to talk with friends. Okay, what kind of place is this that doesn't serve food apart from coffee, tea, breads and desserts, like we said? So this type, we don't have a big menu and we don't have strong options for lunch, but it's very casual and relaxed, and it's suitable for meetings and talking with your friends. This is a cafe or a bistro. So the features of cafe or bistro is the price is not too high, the dress code is casual, and the food is not something that is suitable for lunch. The food is suitable for breakfast, or it's just something to drink. Okay, look at the next one. So this is the next one. We have lots of types of food, and the features, very busy and sometimes noisy. Many different types of foods. The food sometimes the food can be low quality and reasonable prices. The prices are not very expensive. So this is called a buffet. A buffet. So the features بتاعت البوفيه, like we mentioned before, it has some negative aspects and it has some positive aspects. البوفيز ليهم negative وليهم positive. The positive is that you have variety of food. The portion, you choose your portion. انت اللي بتختار البورشن بتاعتك والكمية بتاعت الأكل. So you don't have something that you can throw away or it's not too little. So you have the option of choice. But the bad thing is that the food might be of low quality, or you might have something that you don't really like. Okay, let's look at the next one. So this is the picture, and let's look at the features. Usually outdoors, and food is not expensive. One type of food, sandwiches, hot dogs, ice creams. So it's not a variety of food. They don't have a big variety of food. So this is a food truck or food stall, this or that. So the features, the positive thing is that the food is nice, it's not too expensive, but you don't have variety. ما بيبقاش عندي اختيارات كتير. So they don't have lots of options or choices. Okay, let's look at the next one. Okay, so we have this lady here, and we have the food with her, and let's look at the features. Many different types of food. Prices are usually low, and delivery only. They don't have anything for or any place for you to sit. You can call them and deliver, or you can go take your food and go home. So they don't have the option, or they don't have the place for you to sit. Like we said, this is either a ghost restaurant or a takeout restaurant. So the ghost restaurant or the takeout restaurant doesn't have place for people to sit. It's only a place to order food or take your food away. بكده نبقى اتكلمنا على أهم أنواع الريستورانتس وبدأنا نشوف إيه الفيتشرز بتاعتها وبصينا على الفيتشرز بالتفصيل. تعالوا نعمل extra practice and try fill in the gaps with type of a restaurant that we have just read. Okay, so the first one is here. Let's read together. We have space restaurant. محتاجين نفكر في التايب of restaurant that we are talking about. وخلينا نشوف الديسكريبشن بتاعه اللي هيحدد لي هو إيه. Is a restaurant that attracts customers for its speed of service and low cost over other considerations. So we have low prices and the food is very fast, and this can lead to maybe low quality of food, or food might not be well cooked. The customer is expected to eat the food directly from the disposable container and it was served in. الكاستمر متوقع ان هو هياكل الحاجه من الكونتينر بتاعها، يعني هاكل الحاجه بتاعتي من البوكس، هاكل الحاجه بتاعتي من الكب. So I don't have any kind of service or tableware. So this type of restaurant that is very fast and no waiters, I order my food myself and I eat from the paper container. It's called a fast food restaurant. So a fast food restaurant is a restaurant that attracts customer for its speed. Let's look at the next one. So here we have a restaurant is a restaurant that serves moderately priced. Moderately priced اللي هي like not expensive, not cheap, reasonable. So in the middle. Priced food in a casual atmosphere. Casual atmosphere. provides table service. عندهم table service, so it's not that I serve myself. We have waiter and we have table service. Non-disposable plates and cutlery are offered. بيبقى موجود الأوبشنين. الأوبشن بتاع eating in a paper cup, in a paper plate, or drinking in a paper cup, or cutlery are offered اللي هي الأطباق الصيني أو الchina plates are offered. It can serve any kind of cuisines. وممكن يبقى أي kind of cuisine. So it can be international restaurant, it can be any type of the ethnic restaurant. So this is called, again, if we highlight the idea of casual atmosphere, we can call it a casual dining or a casual restaurant. Let's look at the next one. What restaurant is a restaurant that sells food products to be eaten out of place. So we're talking about something to eat out, it's a takeout. Or, like we said before, it has another word which is a ghost restaurant. Next one, we have here, what restaurant is a restaurant that offers a selection of food at fixed prices. There is no menu and you eat what you want. So they have a large selection. All people pay the same exact price and anyone can eat whatever he wants. كل اللي بيروحوا بيدفعوا نفس الفلوس بالظبط, and they have a large selection of food and you can choose whatever you want to eat. So this is called a buffet. So the buffet restaurant, كل الناس بتدفع نفس البرايس بالظبط, and you have the large selection and you choose whatever you want to eat. Let's look at the next one. So here we have a space restaurant is a restaurant that provides full service, exquisite meal course, and elegant atmosphere. Highlight the idea of elegant. So elegant, which means very, very nice. And the food is expensive. So we have very polite staff. The waiter and the waitress are very formal, and the atmosphere is very elegant and formal. So elegant, fancy, expensive. These are the three features of a fine dining or a fine restaurant. Let's look at the next one. So here we have a restaurant is a restaurant that serves coffee and other beverages. Beverages means drinks. It offers limited selection of cold foods such as pastries, made to order, or sandwiches as well. هو ما عندهوش large selection when it comes to food, but they have some sandwiches, some pastries, and they have coffee and beverages. So we have a selection of things to drink. So a place where you can only drink but you can't order, or you don't have a very large selection of food, this is a coffee house or a cafe. So by this, we have talked about places where we can eat out, and we have talked about the features of each type of restaurants. Let's now start and let's look at food itself. لو أنا عايز أوصف الفود نفسه. So if I would like to describe the food itself, we have the idea of the description of either the taste or the texture of the food. يعني أنا لو عايز أوصف الأكل نفسه، أنا هوصف حاجة من الاتنين، يا إما هوصف الملمس بتاعه يا إما هوصف طعمه. So texture and taste are two important things that can help me describe to people the food, and it can help the restaurant describe to me what I expect. زي ما قلنا مثلا في حاجه زي التشاينيز ريستورانت، انا لما بروح المنيو بتاعي بيبقى مكتوب اسماء الاكلات بالصيني. So I wouldn't know what type of food I'm ordering. مش هبقى عارف انا باوردر ايه. That's why the restaurants use the type of the texture and the taste to help you imagine what you're going to order. بيساعدني ان انا اعرف بالظبط الاوردر بتاعي هيبقى عامل ازاي. So let's look at food taste and food texture. If we're talking about food taste, to speak about the taste first, we have variety of tastes. So the first taste is the taste of sugar. So the taste of sugar, anything that has the taste of sugar in it, we call it sweet. Sweet. Sweet is the taste of sugar. So it's not sweetie, it's sweet. And we have the taste of salt, it's called salty. Salty. وهنا letter A اللي موجود عندي is pronounced as O. So it's not sa, it's not salty, it's so. Salty. Salty. So the taste of salt is salty. وsalt اللي هو الملح. So salty is مالح. مش مالح بمعنى حادق، مالح بمعنى فيه طعم الملح. So it's called salty. Salty. And we also have sour. Sour. Sour is the taste, basically the taste of lemon. So lemon is sour. Sour هو الطعم اللاذع. So if we're talking about green apples, if we're talking about lemon, if we're talking about lemon again or lime, so these are the things that are sour. Sour. And we have bitter. Bitter. Bitter is the taste of coffee without adding any sugar or milk or anything to it. It's called bitter. Bitter اللي هو الطعم المر. So this taste, when you have something like coffee, it's called bitter. So if we're talking about broccoli, broccoli is bitter. If we're talking about grapefruits, grapefruits are bitter. So the idea of bitter, mur. So the next taste that we have is the taste of pepper. It's called spicy. Spicy. وخلينا نفرق ما بين حاجتين. عندي حاجة اسمها spices and I have something called spicy. Spices are التوابل in general and this is not حراق. So we have spices, but if we're talking about the taste is called spicy, and spicy هي أي حاجة حراقة. So spicy, spicy. And basically, if we're talking about spicy, this is the taste of pepper or chilies. So chilies and pepper taste spicy. So the next taste is, this is the taste of usually or almost nothing. It's not sweet, it's not salty, not bitter, nothing. Like the taste of water. If I am talking about the taste of water, what does water taste like? لما هسأل إيه طعم المية؟ طعمها إيه؟ Actually nothing. So this is what we call it bland. Bland. So bland food that doesn't have any taste and sometimes it has some taste but weak taste. ممكن يبقى bland الحاجات اللي ملهاش طعم خالص, like when we're talking about water, or we're talking about something that has weak taste أو حاجة طعمها ضعيف أو ملهاش طعم قوي أو ملهاش طعم مميز. So it's called bland. Bland. Okay, تعالوا نعمل practice. Let's look at the food and let's think what does it taste or how does it taste like. So here we have, let's refresh. Do you remember the name of this? So these are called donuts, cookies, and biscuits. So if we're talking about donuts, cookies, biscuits, they are all, yes. So the taste of these are sweet, sweet. And remember, it's not sweetie, it's sweet. Okay. So here we have lime. How do they taste? They taste sour, sour. So lime is sour, sour. Okay, let's look at the next one. Remember when we said, what's this? Coffee, coffee. So what's the taste of coffee? It is bitter. Very nice. Okay, let's look at these. So we have hot peppers here, we have fajitas here, and we have a lot of chili stuff here. So What's the taste? Yes, so it's spicy, spicy. Okay? So, this is a nice one. If we're talking about rice, or if we're talking about potatoes, without adding anything to it. لو هتكلم على الرز أو البطاطس من غير ما أحط عليها أي حاجة. No salt, no butter, nothing at all. So, the original taste of them is exactly. So, they don't have a strong taste. So, that's why if we're talking about rice or if we're talking about potatoes, they are bland. They have a taste, but not very strong. So, bland. Okay, and if we're talking about chips, pretzels, soy sauce, they are all? Yes. So, all of them are salty. بكده نبقى بصينا على أول part that comes when we think of describing food. The second part that we think of is the texture. يعني احنا اتكلمنا على التيست and then we're going to speak about the texture. The texture is how you feel when you put it in your mouth as texture. So, to speak about the texture of food, we have different textures. Let's look at the first thing. Here we have apples and we have lollipop and chocolate, the things that is not easy to chew, مش سهلين إن أنا أمضغهم. So they are called hard, hard. And the second thing that we have is the opposite. So if it's not easy to chew, it's hard. What if it's easy? So what about things that are easy to chew? Here we have things like bananas, ice cream, or rice. All of them are, the opposite of hard is soft, soft, soft. And other times we call it creamy, depending. يبقى soft okay, creamy okay, depending على texture نفسه. Okay, so if we're talking about cereals, if we're talking about things that make so this is called crunchy, crunchy. So the sound is crunchy. And we have things like gum or gummy bear or sometimes meat, things that takes too long in your mouth and you chew it a lot. الحاجات اللي بتاخد وقت طويل في المضغ، الحاجات اللي بتقعد في بقنا فترة. So it's called chewy, chewy, chewy. Okay, so let's now practice. Let's look at the food and let's think what is the texture of this food. So here we have this nice chicken. So what do you think it is, or what texture does it have? So if we're talking about this and this breading, it's called crunchy. So this is crunchy chicken. What about these gummy bears? So the gummies are chewy, chewy. What about bread? Bread is soft. So the bread is soft. An apple, if we're talking about an apple, the apple is hard. Very good. Okay, بكده نبقى اتكلمنا على أهم الحاجات اللي ممكن تساعدني إن أنا أعمل order في place. So I can choose the place. I can now think of the description of food that they can offer me, and I know the different types of restaurants and the different tastes as well. تعالوا نبص مع بعض جوه الريستورانت نفسه الدنيا تبقى ماشية ازاي. How can I order food? What expressions and what things do we have inside the restaurant? Okay, so first when we get to the restaurant, what do we do when we arrive to a restaurant? The first thing is that we need to get a table. So after we get the table, we ask for something which is called the menu. We ask for the menu. طيب ده هياخدني البارت بتاع المنيو. So in every menu we have different sections of the menu or different parts of the menu. طيب ايه different sections or different parts of the menu that we can have? Here we have, this is the Star restaurant. This is a very famous restaurant that we're going to eat in. So الريستورانت هنا مقسم المنيو بتاعه ل 1 2 3 4 5 different parts. ايه ال 5 different parts اللي احنا ممكن نلاقيهم في اي منيو هنقرر ان احنا نمسكه؟ So the first thing we have starters. Starters. So we call them starters and sometimes we call them appetizers. الستارترز أو الابيتايزر دي اللي هي الحاجة اللي بنبدأ بيها أو اللي هي بتفتح شهية الشخص زي الشوربة أو something small that you can start your eating or your food with. So here we have soup, we have bread rolls, stuff like that. And the second thing that we have is the main course. The main course. The main course or the main dish is the main food that we eat. And we're talking here about the protein. So it's the meat or chicken or the main thing that you go and order in a restaurant. And then we have side orders or side dishes. The side orders or the side dishes are the things that you can ask for that come beside your dish. Like if we're talking about rice, pasta, potatoes, stuff like that are called side orders or side dish. And then we have a dessert, and the dessert is what we eat after the meal as something sweet. It's called a dessert. And the last thing that we have is drinks. So anything that you would like to drink, either water or whatever drink you have. So these are the parts of the menu. Now let's look at a conversation between a waiter and customers in a restaurant. So let's start. Here we have, what would you like to eat? What would you like to eat? Okay, so what would you like to eat? This is said by the customer or said by the waiter? This is basically by the waiter. So here we have, I'd like some chicken soup and some spaghetti, please. So this is a conversation between the waiter and the customer. So let's look at another conversation between another waiter and another customer. What would you like to order? Or what would you like to eat? يبقى الويتر عندي بيقول what would you like? And the answer is I'd like. So I'd like some fried fish and some rice, please. So please is really important to sound nice. So by this, we have looked at the most important types of restaurant, and we have looked at how to order food. We've looked at a menu, what we can have inside the menu, and we've looked at food, taste, texture. بكده نبقى وصلنا لآخر حلقتنا النهاردة. And thank you very much for watching and see you next time. Bye.